Hey, Karina, I'm here, and just let me know when you're ready when we're ready to get rolling. No hurry.
Will do.
Also, Karina, when you get a second, would you promote Eric to panelist? For some reason, it's allowing me to do it, but it's not actually doing it.
I got it.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay, Amber, everything is good to go, so we can start on time.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so it's 10:30. If everyone wants to turn their cameras on, that would be great. I am going to call I think we are officially the Climate Parks and Conservation Committee to order for March 9th. And we continue to meet virtually, which I realize is somewhat obvious. You could join us at www.ci.missoula.mt.us/webcasts. You could also leave all of council a voicemail at 406-552-6012, or leave all of council an email at council@ci.missoula.mt.us. So we're hoping to be back in person soon, but this is where we are still for now. So thanks. Karina, would you go ahead and do roll? I think we have a quorum.
Okay. Anderson. I don't see Stacy. Becerra.
Present.
Carlino.
Present.
Contos. John, are you there?
I don't see him.
Oh, and you know what? Stacy just joined.
And so John, I think we've got
So
both of
John-
them.
John is there. Jordan Hess,
Yeah, present.
Jones,
Present.
Kristen Jordan,
Present.
Mike Nugent,
Present.
Savage,
Present.
Cheryl,
Present.
Vaseka,
Present, and I see John now.
and you see John. Okay, there, yep, there he is. John's here too. Okay, West.
Present.
Okay, wonderful. That is everybody. So we
Great.
have,
And we counted, Anderson is present, correct?
Yep. we got her.
Okay,
too.
awesome. Thanks. And we have minutes from our meeting on March 2nd. If there are no changes to those minutes, they will stand approved. I do not see anyone's hand up, so those minutes will stand approved. We have one person in as an attendee, but I believe that is our interviewee for our next item, our second item. But if you do have any comment related to climate parks and conservation that is not on the agenda, please go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, great. So Eric, you're here. We have our first item, and this is to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a contract in the amount of $237,920 with Aquatic Renovation Systems, Inc., Renosys, for replacement of the Splash Montana 50-meter pool liner. So Eric, you want to take this item over?
Sure. I'll just share my screen here. If I can do it right. Yeah, so the 50-meter pool is a shell, and then there's a PVC liner that coats the, it sits like a bag kind of in that shell, and it keeps the water up in the pool and not flowing through the ground. It has the markings on it, and it has generally a 10-year lifespan. I believe we're at going into our 14th season right now. We've been having to patch it for the past few years, trying to just extend its life. But we had this funding in the CIP plan for a couple of years. We kept sliding it because we thought we could go longer, but now we've come to the time where we really do need to do this. Last summer it leaked quite a bit, and we were able to patch it underwater, but to get through the season, but it did a significant increase in our water costs. So this job will happen in the fall. So we will have one more summer to get through there was a $60,000 difference between the two respondents. We chose the respondent that had everything included that we could want. They got 30 years experience doing this job nationally, and they know what they're doing and are working with us. One of the reasons they were as inexpensive as they were is because they're coming up to do a pool in Billings at the end of August, and will be able to just transfer their crew from Billings to Missoula afterwards. So it works out, they're already up in Montana, which contributed to the cost decrease. So what we're asking is that you approve and authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Reno for replacement of that 50-meter pool liner. The project also includes replacing the white PVC grating that encircles the pool, and which has been cracked. We've been replacing, and we've had to keep cones in some spots to where we can't get parts to replace the holes anymore. So this is all going to be replaced with brand new liner as well.
Great, thanks, Eric. I'm assuming as far as with the water leakage, the costs associated with that, that there's also increased cost around heating the water as it leaks out and we get new water in. Is that true?
Yes, exactly. Every gallon you lose is a gallon of water that's been heated from where it comes in at about 60 degrees, and we operate at 82 degrees. So it's a loss of 22 degrees, as well as chlorination and balancing the pH. We lose all of that. So this is going to make a significant savings, and it's something that needs to be done every 10 to 14 years for this type
And
of
it
pool.
sounds like that we're at the end of that. We're at the end of that lifespan and going a bit beyond. So I see some hands up, so I'm gonna go ahead and take questions. Stacy.
Thanks so much, Madam Chair. Thanks for the presentation. I know that we have heard from Parks and Rec Director Donna Gockler in various presentations over the course of my tenure on council about the deferred maintenance, especially around aquatics, because it is such a maintenance heavy, endeavor because of the chemicals and the high use, and it's great. I absolutely love our aquatics facilities. So I'm curious, in terms of the 50-meter pool, is this the big component of sort of deferred maintenance that we've been putting off? Obviously, we've been pushing this a little bit, or is there more to be done as well?
So just considering that particular pool, the 50-meter pool, this is probably the largest expense. We are looking at something. I don't think it would be near as costly though, but we are looking at some improvements of the filtration system, but that's not really deferred maintenance. That's more of a upgrade as part of the McKinstry energy conservation contract. So, more money will be going back into that pool. But if that falls through, or if, that's all based on that's paid for, I believe, through the energy savings, the cost savings. So yeah, this should pretty much wrap up that pool pretty good as far as major projects for another significant period of time.
Madam Chair, I have a follow-up.
Yes, you may. Eric, would you stop sharing your screen as well, if you don't mind? And yes, Stacy, go ahead.
Thanks so much. And I see that this is coming, the financial implications on the referral has this coming from the Aquatics Capital Improvement Fund. I know that during the last year's budgeting cycle in August, we talked a lot about the fact that there was quite a bit of vacancy savings in the parks budget, and there was quite a few capital improvements in the park district that we approved. Is this where that is coming out of, that line item of those overall improvements? Or I know we also have the stewardship levy that was passed. Just would love a little bit better explanation of what particular fund this is coming for out of.
So the CIP fund was budgeted for a total of $250,000, and that included 3 or 4 different projects. This is the majority of that $250,000. As far as the details for the rest of that, I would need to refer to our finance people and could get back to you with that.
That's fine. I can follow up with Ryan. Madam Chair, I'm happy to make the recommended motion to allow the mayor to sign his contract. I think it's a good investment.
Great, thank you. John, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I was wondering if you could help me out with this. I thought pools were made out of concrete that lasts forever. Was that
Yeah.
a cost savings to go with this?
So there's different styles. Some pools are made with like the pond and river at Splash Montana are finished with a product called Crystalcrete, which is a concrete version. And that's a traditional style. The pool of the 50-meter pool is what's called an Astral Pool. It's a company design. And what it is it has a cement and concrete foundation that goes up to about, if you're standing in the deep end, it goes up about 3 feet. And then on top of that are metal panels that are combined together and which wrap around the rest of the facility or the rest of the basin, I guess. And then because it's this dual process underneath, the liner then is put on top of it for, again, to have the lane line markings, depth markings, and to keep that water in place. So you're right about traditional pools and about 4 out of 5 of our pools, but the 50-meter is a different style. And just as a note, the concrete pools really don't last forever. That shell does need to be replaced on a periodic basis, can be 15 to 20 years. And that'll also be a fairly significant cost. In fact, a lot of facilities will opt to put a liner in instead of replacing that finish that is on those concrete pools. So you may have a concrete pool that has a liner on it, actually.
I see. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. And we've just got a few more minutes for this item, but I want to get to everyone's questions. Sandra, go ahead.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say, while I really disagree with the city owning this Splash Montana Park, we do. And so we do need to maintain it since we do own it. So I will be in support of this tonight or today, this morning.
Thanks. Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, I support this recommended motion. I think having an affordable water park in town is really good asset for children and elderly. And I go there pretty often for my job, working with people with different mental disabilities, and it's a really good asset. And I hope we can still keep it affordable. And I'm just happy to support this.
Thanks, Daniel. And I would add to that we have having former swimmers, my children being former swimmers, there are big events that go on there in the summer that bring teams from Canada and all over the place to some of these swim meets, which I think are, a good economic benefit for our city as well. So, and I appreciate the comment about keeping things affordable because the place is packed in the summer, which is awesome. Mike, one more question quickly. Go ahead.
Nope, I was just going to basically say what Daniel and you said. So I'm glad that the city of Missoula owns this and I support this.
Thanks. Me too. I think it's a great asset for our community. And I'm going to go to any public comment on this item. I think the only one that's attending is waiting for the interview. I think that's true. So great. Thank you, Eric. And Karina, you want to go ahead and do roll call on this vote?
Yes, I will. Anderson.
Yes.
Anderson votes yes. Becerra.
Yes.
Becerra votes yes. Carlino.
Yes.
Carlino votes yes. Contos.
Yes.
Contos votes yes. Hess.
Yes.
Hess votes yes. Jones.
Yes.
Jones votes yes. Jordan?
Yes.
Jordan votes yes. Mike Nugent?
Yes.
Mike Nugent votes yes. Savage?
Yes.
Savage votes yes. Cheryl?
Yes.
Cheryl votes yes. Vaseka?
Yes.
Vaseka votes yes. West?
Yes.
West votes yes. And that is 12 yeses and no nos.
Great.
Thank-
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Eric. And that can go on the consent agenda, of course. Our next item, we are finishing up our interviews for the energy and climate team. And Tracy, I think I successfully promoted you to panelist. Are you here with us?
I am here.
Okay. Oh, there you are. Okay, great. Thanks. Appreciate you waiting. We're running a little bit behind time, but not too much. So first, thank you. Appreciate your interest in serving on this team. And, just as I always say, when we do any interviews for things like this, we appreciate people's willingness to serve on these type of committees because they're just so important for us sitting here making decisions and having had experts in different ways and from different backgrounds weigh in on these issues for us as well. It's really helpful to council and we just appreciate your time. I am going to run through some interview questions. And normally we spread those around, but since we're doing it on Zoom and it gets way too complicated, I'm just going to ask all of them. And some of them can be a little repetitive depending on what your answer to the previous question was, but I will ask it anyway, just to make sure if you want to expand on any of your answers that you're able to. And then if you have any answer or any questions for us at the end, you'll have an opportunity there.
Okay.
Great. So what is your interest in serving on the energy and climate team?
My interest mainly lies in wanting to help the city to fully realize the goals in the climate plan. We've got several different climate plans. So I think it's important to, fully realize those goals and create the processes and incentives that can help us to be successful. I manage a stormwater utility and stormwater literally touches everything. So I work with multiple city departments and different divisions. I work with streets, wastewater, parks, planning. I'm directly involved in various tasks from engineering and development plan review to utility operations and maintenance. So I think that really is what makes me well suited to represent the city on the team.
Great, thanks. Describe your familiarity with the city's greenhouse gas and energy conservation plans. And this is a little bit of a clunky question. Are there areas that intersect with the city energy conservation and climate action plan?
Sure. Well, I think, the plan as it is, I think, I'm familiar with it in the sense that I understand it has a strong focus on reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the valley, municipal operations, as well as just encouraging, greener development. And certainly reducing and becoming carbon neutral is super important and will always be important. And 10 years ago, that was kind of the biggest topic when the plan was written. And I think we now know there's multiple causes for climate change, and a lot of it now is outside our control. And so I think there's been more of a focus on building resiliency to climate change. So as far as those two documents, I think, I see, the plan and then the action plan. Do you mean like the climate smart action plan? Is that what? Because there's multiple documents, right?
Yeah, there are multiple documents. I mean, that's kind of the reason that I said I think that it's kind of a clunky question because we're having people answer it in lots of different ways because there are so many plans. So I think the way you're answering it is exactly what we're looking for.
Okay.
I mean,
sure.
as far as that's what we're trying to get out with the question.
And I think, one of the plans I've actually referenced more is the little bit more recent one. It's the Climate Ready Missoula Plan, which is the 2020 document. And I really like that, guys. I was actually able to work with Chase, implementing some of, our goals into that document because the other documents don't really talk about stormwater as much as I would like, and creating more green infrastructure and having better water quality treatment and things like that. So that's the one that I've probably referenced more.
Great, thank you. And there are a lot of plans, so that was kind of my opening to that question. So I know some of this, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to answer this as well. Do you have any personal or professional expertise that relates to one of the designated areas? Hold on. Let me move on here. What issues do you consider important for the team to be considering?
So yeah, I think it's important to continue to move towards carbon neutrality. Purchasing electric vehicles, everything that plan identifies. Going towards LEED certification for city buildings, things like that. I think are all really important. But I think one of the things that I'm a little bit more focused on in my work is working towards mitigation and resiliency, because we know that our efforts alone towards carbon neutrality won't necessarily combat climate change. While it's important to be a responsible steward of the environment and work towards that, I think we need to do everything we can to make sure the Missoula community is not adversely affected. Particularly we're focusing on infill, we focus on multimodal transportation. So all of those things create more impervious area, increases stormwater runoff, which can increase flooding. So I think we need to combine all of those things and try to, really try to mitigate for all these different plans that kind of all come together. But we want to, make sure that we're accounting for, potentially adverse effects from some of those things we're trying to encourage.
Thank you. Can you provide an example of a time when you have had to compromise, collaborate, or deal with conflict, and what the results of your efforts were?
I liked this question because I do this every day. So when I started with the stormwater utility a couple of years ago, 2 months after I was newly hired, we got a notice of violation letter from the Department of Environmental Quality. And they said basically the city was in violation of the Clean Water Act for failing to implement an adequate stormwater management program. So it quickly evolved into me being responsible for getting the city to come into compliance with the Clean Water Act. So I revised our ordinance. I've implemented numerous different regulations and planning documents. And so a lot of that has caused some friction within the community, within even internally, because there's certain operations, people have done for decades. They've done things their whole career a certain way. And then you come in and saying, well, actually, that has the potential to contaminate our groundwater or potential to contaminate our creeks and streams. So we need you to do it differently, and that's been tough for folks. But I think when it comes to talking about it, I mean, we live on top of our drinking water. We all recreate in our rivers. And so in the end, really most folks want to comply. They want to protect our water resources. And so when you explain why we're doing those things, you generally get pretty good buy-in.
Thanks. There's definitely lots of opportunity for conflicts in this area of work, because we do need to change how we're doing things. How would you describe the level of urgency associated with addressing climate change? And how do you talk to people who have a different sense of that urgency?
I definitely think we're up against the clock for sure. But I think we also haven't missed the boat. I think, nature is pretty incredible. I think if we can turn around some of our actions, I think, the climate and, ecosystems can recover, and they can recover quicker than we anticipate sometimes. So I think we still, can make a change. I think when I speak with folks that have differing point of views, I empathize with their point of view. I get it. I've got family, particularly, or, people that think differently. So, I mean, don't want to have conflict in areas like that. But I think some of the ways that I can, when we speak with folks, is just offering real world examples. I mean, the firestorms that we see in California wildfires, that's pretty new and that's pretty intense. We have more frequent flooding. We have bigger hurricanes. There's certain things that you can't really argue with. And so that usually they have a little bit different sense when you kind of bring in those examples.
Yeah, thank you. The city and county offer board training twice a year. The training covers good governance, open meetings, public participation and right to know, ethics, conflicts of interest, bylaws, minutes, and parliamentary procedures. The city feels that it's very important that all city board members attend this training. Have you, or, will you, would you be willing to attend the training?
Yes, I would be willing to. I haven't yet.
Okay, great. And then the energy and climate team is currently scheduled to meet monthly at a designated time by the committee. I will say that we are kind of working on this timing still right now because it's been a little complicated for some members, but the meeting is actually set for the second Thursday of the month at 8 a.m. I think that the questions say 12. Do you have time to attend these meetings and do the research that is necessary to participate in committees?
I will make the time.
Having the time is hard to just go. Yeah, I've got it. Also, I'm sorry, I'm working off of one screen here. So I think I missed one of the questions that gave you an opportunity to speak to kind of your, and I know you have some, but speak to your expertise in different areas as it relates to work that the energy and climate team would be doing. So I want to give you that opportunity.
Well, sure. So I have a background in environmental science. My undergrad degree is natural resources management. I've been working in environmental science and environmental regulatory compliance for about 20 years. My focus has generally kind of been more towards on aquatic and riparian ecosystems. So as far as, certain aspects of it, I think, when looking towards water conservation, protecting or enhancing streams, wetland protection, restoration, floodplains, I'm a certified floodplain manager. I manage the levees here in town to, things that can help to reduce flooding, talking about groundwater infiltration, things like that. So I think that's all in my area of expertise.
Great, thank you. And those are all our questions. So do you have any questions for us?
I guess I don't really. I mean, is it just, I guess what is the time commitment exactly? I mean, you said it's 2 hours a month plus some research time and.
Yeah, I would say it's this committee has been morphing in its role over the last couple of years, but I would say it's probably a couple hours a month and maybe another hour here or there kind of for research. There are some special projects that come up but those would be voluntary. You wouldn't be forced to be involved in those. So really it's probably, I would say, 3 to 4 hours a month.
Okay. Yeah, no, that sounds great. Yeah, that sounds great. Now I think I'd be really interested in helping make some of those goals happen. Even as I was looking through, I guess the 2012 document, it talked about, permeable pavers being or a permeable pavement being one of the items. And that was only just implemented in the right of way. We have a tiny small test project that we installed in 2021. So, I think some of those things in the plan, I think, we still need to move towards and make those things happen.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And then we will be back with you, I'm guessing at sometime next week.
Okay.
So we're just wrapping up interviews and, it'll go to be finalized on Monday and then we should be back in touch with you. But thank you so much. I really appreciate your interest and willingness to help out in this way.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I always like to do all the interviews at once because I think it's a little hard to remember all of them. I think we have 3 really good candidates here. But we do need to choose one. So I'm going to take this in order. Gwen, go ahead.
I just had a question first to see if you had touched base with Chris Rowe, who is the chair of the climate team, and see if he had, this is a great team that is starting to turn more into a working team. And I was wondering if you had any insights, Amber, into what Chris is, how he balances the team and thoughts he had.
Yeah, I don't actually have any insight for you from that. I apologize. But I can say that we, being on the team myself, we do have a working team. We have, we do have a number of scientists on the team. We have the youth board members. We just added, as you know, Chad Bauer, sorry. It was confusing Chris's name there, with Republic Services, which I think he's going to be a really valuable member and partner with the city on that. I don't feel like there are holes in the team specifically, to be honest. So I would say the kind of, there's nothing we're missing in team representation. Daniel, go ahead.
I was going to make the recommended motion to appoint Allie Kane to serve as a regular member on the energy and climate team. And could I speak to it?
I was going to ask you if you would like to speak to it. Yes, please do.
I think all three candidates were actually really good, and I would be happy to have them all on the team, and would definitely hope that they all come back and apply again. All bring in different good skill sets, but I think I wanted to make this motion because I think Allie Kane had a lot of tenacity and understanding of the urgency of the climate crisis and how fast we need to act to cut our emissions to avoid major climate tipping points. And I think that sense of urgency is something that always is really helpful in this field. So I think all candidates are really good, but that's why I made the recommended motion for Allie Kane.
Okay, so I want to go back to process for a second here. Since we have a motion on the table, Gwen, could you help me with this? I think in the past, what we have done is we have taken comment on that motion and taken a vote on that motion specifically. I just know it got a little complicated last time, so I want to make sure I'm going to follow process.
Yes, so we clarified this entire process in our new rules that go into effect March 30th. So at that point, we do have a clear linear protocol for how to approach it. In the meantime, it is up to the chair discretion to either follow through on this one motion. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have more guidance for you. That's why we changed it in the rules. And it's going to be really good come March 30th. So Amber, you handle it. You're good. And Jordan, if you have anything else to add there, but that's kind of where we're at. It's always a bit of a muddle. I'm sorry about that. And that's why we clarified it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of take comment, and we're going to have a discussion going forward right now, because I think that's what seems like the best process given where we are. Thank you for your comments, though, Daniel. Heidi, go ahead.
So I just had a question about if you knew if transportation was heavily represented already on the team. I think both Allie and Tracy, well, they were all great candidates, actually. But if I remember correctly, Carver and Tracy both came from the stormwater utility, and then Allie had the transportation focus. And so I wanted to know if there is a heavy emphasis on transportation already.
There is not a heavy emphasis on the team for transportation.
Okay,
so I think,
thank you.
I see Mirta's hand up first, but I thought Sandra was up first. So Mirta, it looks like you're up.
I would like her to go first. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
concur with what has been said about all the applicants, and thank you to all three of them for coming forward and wanting to serve on this. I have worked with Tracy Campbell in the past, and I am always impressed with her depth of knowledge, her ability to collaborate and coordinate with state and county agencies. And I think that's an important aspect of being on that team is the breadth of network and collaboration that members can bring. And she does that. She's always willing to find solutions. And I do believe that our water resources are of extreme importance right now. And so my vote would be for her as a nominee. So I don't know, I don't want to muddy the waters of this process, but just know that that's where my support would be.
Appreciate that. Sandra, go ahead.
So I was just looking at who is on the Energy and Climate Action Team, and that web page is not available because I wanted to see, because Heidi mentioned about the transportation aspect. So I guess I don't really have any comments at this time. I want to see how this conversation goes.
Thank you. Thanks. This is always a hard one because I think we have three really qualified candidates here, and I don't feel like we have any real holes, but we don't have transportation specifically represented. Stacy, go ahead.
Thanks so much, Madam Chair. Actually, I too with Sandra. I always, as someone who spends a lot of time in the outside of city in the nonprofit world that builds boards, it's always lovely to have sort of a graph of like who, what skill sets, so you can see a more broad base board. And I know that you, Amber, have also spent a lot of time in that. So I guess, once again, want to echo what everyone has said in terms of incredibly impressed with the slate of interviewees. Always so just impressed that so many people are willing to serve in these positions and bring their broad expertise. I would be happy with any of them. I do like what Mirta said about Tracy's, this isn't just a Missoula thing. It really needs to be collaborative. And I think that it was really interesting in the presentation in our previous committee when talking about kind of the stormwater and plant and the poplar plant and some, you heard that there were some regulatory things that were sort of impeding upon some of the larger goals that we had coming at different levels of government. And so having that connection and ability to work across there, I think is really important. I also think that transportation, to me, water is a huge part of climate components, transportation, another huge component. So I am conflicted because I see that they're both really good options. So, but yeah, having that cross-governmental ability and skill set, I do also really value. So
Thanks.
That's more of a comment than a question, Muddy. I don't know if it helps.
No. I think that helps. And one of the things that the reason I'm kind of going through comments is because last time it felt like in the past, sometimes it has been whoever kind of gets their hand up the quickest for making the motions, and not that I think that is making quick motions is a bad thing, but I just want to make sure that everyone kind of has their time to discuss the different candidates and say what their thoughts are around it. I would add, and I appreciate some of what's being brought up, because I do think that this position, what is going to be helpful as a skill set on this team is collaboration, the ability to see that crossover. We have lots of partners and climate resiliency in the city. We've got a lot of governmental pieces that move. We have Climate Smart Missoula. We have the city staff. We have McKinstry. We've got a lot of pieces in this. So kind of the collaborative, kind of bigger picture thinking is going to be helpful, to be quite honest. So go ahead. And I'm just putting that out there as a skill set we need, not a commentary on any specific candidate. Gwen, go ahead.
Thanks. I was going to comment that I think we have 3 strong candidates, and there's 2 that I especially, Tracy Campbell and Allie Kane, I think would be really great additions. So it's always a good situation to be in when we've got a really good depth of field here. But I did want to point out, this is one of the reasons why we addressed it in the rules. We might be able to have our cake and eat it too in the long run if there is a resignation off of the climate team. And we know we've got another strong person, either Allie or Tracy, under our rules, then the chair could bring that forward and that could be approved down the road. So first of all, I just wanted to highlight that because we have changed the rules. And I just see both of these women as being great additions to the team. So it's a hard one. But last year, we appointed Jonathan Carlin, and then a few months later, we were able to appoint Chad Bauer. So I just wanted to kind of keep that in mind that in the long run, maybe we can do everything that we want to, because periodically there are resignations.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. And I think we had a lot of discussion around this last time, and I was very happy that we were able to get both of those people onto the team. Jordan, go ahead.
Thanks. I agree with all the comments so far. I think there's a number of really qualified candidates. I wanted to highlight that if you wanted to use the new rules, you could take a motion to suspend the rules and our current rules and basically go by the new rules. And so that's a path that's available to you. I also think that this is it's a little bit of an awkward position for city council to be appointing a city staff member and selecting a city staff member. It feels that feels a little bit administrative to me, and so I'd be happy with the candidates as I already mentioned, but I don't love making this decision. So maybe it's something that we could revise specifically about the energy and climate team moving forward, that's an administrative appointment for the staff position.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. I think this is a very strange situation to be in as well. Gwen, Sandy, I think you lowered your hand. So Gwen, go ahead.
And thanks for bringing that up. I also wanted to add, I don't think there's anything in our bylaws that precludes us from having more than one staff person. So if we appoint one today and we fill that slot, and then in the future, if we have this second in line and we appoint them, I think they're just a regular person sitting on the team. And frankly, by virtue of their jobs, they actually bring incredible expertise. So I just wanted to, I think we have flexibility there, but I agree with Jordan. I feel like it's a bit of an awkward position to be in. So thanks.
I think we will take a look at that because I agree with it. Sandra, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Jordan does bring a really good point. It is a very awkward position to appoint somebody that's already working for the city, and everyone is a great candidate. And I mean, Tracy did kill it today, but I really want to bring Carver into the mix. I would like to nominate him. His interview was very good, and I thought that he would bring a lot of good decisions to the team. So I would like to nominate him if we're doing the new council rules. I'm not sure what we're doing.
Okay, so so Gwen or Jordan, remind me of exactly what the process would be under the new rules. Jordan, go ahead.
Well, so you have a motion on the floor. So that's the main motion under discussion. So you either need to we either need to deal with this motion or so I would think that new nomination would not be in order. And so we either need to deal with this motion or the motion needs to be withdrawn and we need to take a different path.
Okay.
And that would require a motion to suspend the rules.
Okay, so not sure what I want to do with this. I think that so under the new rule, if I was to suspend the rules, this is always so clunky, and I apologize that we're going through this again. on this, but if I was to suspend the rules, then what would the process be? Jordan, go ahead again. I
Well, so
feel like I'm talking.
It takes 2/3 of council to suspend the rules, and I sort of regret treading into that territory because I just made things really complicated. Basically, if 2/3 of the committee wanted to suspend the rules, it would take a motion to suspend the rules, and then you could then operate under the new rules. And like I said, I feel like I have needlessly complicated this by even mentioning that, and it's pretty uncommon. And it's pretty unusual to suspend the rules, and there should be a very compelling reason to do so. We have existing rules in place, and so that's. I geek out on the parliamentary side sometimes, and I just threw a big complication into the mix.
You're geeking out on me at the wrong time. I am not going to suspend the rules because I do believe that there needs to be they need to be suspended, not just at the whim of trying to make a meeting easier to figure out and a process that's a little easier to figure out. So Sandra, I'm not going to take that motion at this point in time. And I am going to allow more comments around Daniel's motion, and then we're going to go ahead and take a vote on that. Mirta, go ahead.
I was just going to say that maybe we just vote on the motion Daniel put forward, see how many votes that gets. Then I put a motion for another candidate, vote on that. And the third candidate, and whoever gets the most votes gets appointed. I don't know.
Well,
okay. I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Mike's comment, and then I'm going to go ahead and vote on Daniel's, and then we will see where we are, and then we will move forward in some way from there. I will tell you, if we didn't have such a strong slate of candidates, I think this would be easier for all of us, and there wouldn't be so many struggles as to how to do what is a very clunky process. Mike, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, let's just vote on the motion. And if you want to recommend someone else, then vote no, and it keeps it open. But if it passes, we can't go vote for someone else. So I think we should.
I agree. So, okay. So thank you. I appreciate everyone's comments and help in working through this. I don't know why this team always ends up being the funky interview one, but Karina, would you go ahead there's no public here to comment on the motion. So Karina, would you go ahead and take a vote on Daniel's motion to appoint Allie Carver? I think, nope. Sorry, got her name wrong there. Hold on just a second.
Is it Allie Kane?
Kane, sorry, Kane.
Okay.
I was just looking at that. Kane to the Energy and Climate Team.
Perfect. Okay. Anderson.
This is hard. I hate the one time I hate my name being first. Gosh, Nikes. Okay, I will vote for the motion.
Okay.
Everyone has to vote. That's
Anderson votes yes. Becerra.
No.
Becerra votes no. Carlino.
Yes.
Carlina votes yes. Contos.
No.
Contos votes no. Hess.
Yes.
Hess votes yes. Jones.
Yes.
Jones votes yes. Jordan.
Yes.
Jordan votes yes. Mike Nugent.
Yes.
Mike Nugent votes yes. Savage.
No.
Savage votes no. Cheryl.
yes.
Cheryl votes yes. Vaseka.
No.
Vaseka votes no. West.
No.
West votes no. Sorry. West votes no. So that is 7 yeses and 5 noes.
Great, thank you. So that passes. And that can be on the consent. Can we go ahead and put that on the consent agenda? Is that everyone okay with that? Okay, I don't see any hands up around that. So that will go on the consent agenda. That appointment. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you helping me muddle through this process. And I will look forward to having it easier and more fluid in the future. So we are going to move on. We are continuing our discussion on the Marshall Mountain contract. I think Morgan is here and has been very patient. So thank you for sticking with us here. Morgan, do you want to go ahead and just, I think you've gotten some questions this week. Do you want to go ahead and start addressing those questions? Or do people want to pose their questions? I guess, Morgan, I'm going to give it to you for a sec.
Yeah, just really briefly, I want to thank you for having me back. Obviously, I just want to recognize Marshall Mountain is a unique project. And it is certainly something in hindsight, I have realized that we need to be better about giving you good updates on how that project is going. And so I would like to get some things scheduled where we can come and provide you more consistent updates as the project progresses. I think I'd rather just kind of open it up to questions. Before I do that, I do have a couple folks joining me today. Grant Carlton, who is our open space program manager, and May, who has been intimately involved with this project from the acquisitions and lease side and the legal side of things, and Meg Witcher, who runs our outdoor recreation programming and has been intimately involved in getting people to Marshall and providing good programs for children up there. I know we have a limited time. Grant and Meg, if you want to just do a quick 20-second hello, that would be great. Maybe Grant, start it out. Tell us what you're all about and what you've been working on with Marshall.
Yeah, sure. Good morning, guys. Having us. Like I said, I am the open space program manager over at Parks and Renovation, and a primary role among many others.
Hey, Grant. Grant,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You're breaking up for me. I'm having a hard time.
We're having significant technical difficulties on city servers today. They actually just decided to reboot them all at 10 today. So,
okay.
Sorry,
give it one more
guys.
try, Dan.
Maybe if I talk a little bit.
Yeah, maybe try calling in real quick. Grant has been involved with negotiating the lease, working with Izzy Dog. He's our primary liaison with the county. He is he works with our open space advisory committee on vetting all open space purchases. He has also got a law background, and so does a lot of our easements and other related documents. Meg, let's give your mic a try. I'm hoping.
I'm smart enough to know that just to do it on my phone and not even try with the city server. So Meg Witcher here, Recreation Programs Manager. So I've been intimately involved with Marshall Mountain for the last 9 years with the prior landowner, and worked hand in hand in utilizing his willingness to allow us to have programs out there. And it's such a unique space because of the way that permitting falls with our Forest Service. I don't have a lot of places on the Lolo National Forest right in our backyard where I can bring children to really recreate, or people in general. And so Marshall has long been the place where I provide citywide programming in order to open the outdoors and recreation to our community members. And we're able with our programming to actually bring people out there. And now with the partnership with Izzy Dog, it's been a continuation of that, of special events. Our winter carnival had 400 families up there just a couple of weeks ago. Our tree cutting in Santa had a great participation. Here, Montana has brought out BIPOC snowshoeing trips. We have our active older adults walking and snowshoe trips up there. And then it's always just been a bedrock of our youth programming kind of scheme. And so I want to speak to a little bit of my personal work plan is bringing more unique and historically underserved populations specifically to that property, because it is such a special place. When you're back there, you don't feel like you're even in Missoula anymore. You really are kind of removed, and it has a special feeling with it. So just I'm here to answer any questions about goals and initiatives that are specifically being taken, community members.
So, sorry, very, very quickly, and then I just, again, the agenda item today is to approve a master planning process for the mountain. The big question that we have right now is, what are we going to do with Marshall Mountain if we decide to purchase it? And we've got active fundraisers out there trying to raise money, sitting down with potential donors. And one of the big questions is, if I'm going to give money as a donor to Marshall Mountain, what are you going to do on that site? And so it's become pretty evident that we need to actually take a moment with the community to develop a broad master plan for what we could possibly do on Marshall. This will also include a fiscal analysis so we have costs, so we know what it would cost to build our community vision, and our operation and maintenance costs. That whole package will allow you as a board to make a decision when this acquisition of Marshall Mountain comes forward to City Council with all the information on hand and on site. And so, you know, I will admit it's a little backwards to do a master planning process on a parcel before you own it. But that is where we are at, and is what is necessary to make sure we figure out how we, what we build for the public, how we are able to fundraise around that. We've got reams of information on surveys and visioning and past surveys from 2018. I'm not going to really go into those details, but again, we are happy to answer any questions, and I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, thanks, Morgan. Couple things. Karina, I'm unable, I think Grant has called in and I'm unable to promote him. Could you promote him? It's a phone number in the attendees. And I thank you for kind of stepping back. You know, one of the things that I can say is, and just a reminder from our last meeting, where we had the Friends of Marshall Mountain, I think that's the name of the group, that are going out there fundraising for this. And having done, you know, fundraising in the past, you need to have a vision. You can't, while I agree with Morgan that the process is different and coming in a different order than I think it has happened in the past, I also think that it's going to be really an important piece of getting some momentum behind this project. And having run the open space bond and been with Five Valleys for so many years, Five Valleys Land Trust, I would also say that there is significant community support for this project. I think Meg, one of the things I was going to ask Meg about was some numbers around the usage, because I remember when back in my previous life, when I was giving some speeches around kind of the use of these properties, it was amazing the numbers that were up at Marshall Mountain. And if you don't have a kid that's biking, or you're not a bike racer, or, you know, doing these different things, or up there, you don't recognize how big of a use it has. So Karina, I still see, I cannot
I'm here, guys. Can you?
Oh, you're there. Okay, you are. Okay, weird. You show as an attendee still to me. But Grant, do you want to tell us whatever you're going to tell us?
Yeah, I'll jump in, and sorry if I repeat some of the things that Morgan said, but I'll be super brief. Like Morgan said, I sort of lead the way on real estate transactions related to parks, trails, and open space for the city over at Parks and Recreation. And my specialty is sort of the legal side, the negotiation side, and the due diligence of projects. So I'll be shepherding the Marshall Mountain Park project through the our standard open space process, which starts with Open Space Advisory Committee and then goes on to council after a recommendation from OSAC. And then all of the sort of funding implications along the way. So Morgan and I, along with our team over at Parks, will be putting together the budget. We've already started down that path. It's sort of early right now for hard numbers, but another thing I wanted to mention is I'm sort of the liaison or conduit between the city and the county. So we've been in ongoing conversations that have been really promising with our colleagues over at Parks, Trails, and Open Lands within the city. That's sort of their parks department. And we will also be engaging, and we have engaged county leadership, and we will be engaging OSAC's counterpart at the county, which is the Open Lands Advisory Committee, for for general project partnership, and the county is a primary partner, but we will also be talking about what the county's sort of financial and capacity investment will look like in Marshall Mountain. So again, that's ongoing. We don't have any numbers for you at this point, but the county has preliminarily supported the project in general. So that's a good sign, and I think we're off to a good start there.
Thanks, Grant. And
glad to answer any other questions.
Awesome, thank you. And Morgan, do we know if the Friends of Marshall Mountain, is that the name of their group, if they have started fundraising for this yet?
They have just started. They actually all put their own money into the pot to hire a campaign consultant. And so that campaign, capital campaign, is getting designed right now and will be implemented. They have started making initial contacts with donors as well. And so that effort is just getting underway.
And I would add that, and I'm assuming, I guess, that the effort in their fundraising is not just for this envisioning process, but is also to ideally to raise enough money that they are a financial partner in the purchase of this property.
Thank you. Yeah, they are fundraising for the full enchilada. And so acquisition, design, build. And so, they've just recognized having a plan is going to be a critical component for bringing forward those funds. That is why we are not coming forward with an open space request for open space bond funds until later next year, probably next fall, winter is when we vet that, is because we want to see how these fundraisers are able to generate money.
And I would also say, and maybe you could speak to this a bit, and Meg, I see your hands up, so I'm going to go to you next. But, with one of the things with the open space bond funds is that we are always trying to get matching funds. And, one of the things that we beat a dead horse on in the campaign was that in 2006, there was a 4-to-1 match for city funds, in acquisition. So we were able to get private fundraising dollars in, we were able to get grants in, we were able to get money from other sources, which, really optimizes what the community gets for their investment in these properties. And so I'm imagining this being part of it. And I don't know if you want to add to that, but I think I don't want that to be lost in this discussion, as we go forward, is how important these partners are and how important the money they bring to the table and stretching our bond funds is, kind of in a broader sense. So Morgan, do you want to say something about that?
I hesitate to talk anymore because I see so many hands popping up, but you are correct. I mean, we've got a lot of grant monies that we could utilize as well. There's not a ton of grants available for planning. Acquisition, when you don't have a vision for what you're going to build, is hard to write grants around. Having this master plan is a key component to getting this project funded. And this $130,000, which will be coming out of an emergency reserve fund that we've built for these types of endeavors, is essentially seed money to pull together a large project to get millions of dollars of funding towards the site.
Thanks. And I want to say, having written grants, you can't just say we need money because this is a really pretty piece of property. So it does require some planning. I am good. We do have a lot of hands up. And I think that Grant, did you have something to add, Grant? I don't see your hand up, or maybe you can't put it up. Did you have something to add?
Yeah, just really quickly. Sorry, I'm juggling screens and phones. Just to generally speaking to the open space bond, just to kind of put it differently, to word it differently, the way we're looking at the public investment, both city and county, from the open space bond funds for this project is sort of a back end or backstop investment. So what we're trying to do is set ourselves up, and this request is part of that, set ourselves up for private fundraising success, and then backfill the gap, if there is one, with open space bond funds from both the city and the county. And at that point, I have no doubt in my mind that we will be at that 3-to-1, 4-to-1 sort of matching ratio of, public-private dollars, wherever the source is outside of the open space bond, whether it be grants, which I think will be more easily attained for things like trail building, trail construction, infrastructure, as well as, the private fundraising campaign. So I have no doubt that we will hit that mark, and we are certainly, in every open space project, we try to hit that target. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, thanks. And I like how you said that more succinctly than myself, the setting ourselves up for private fundraising success. I'd be thrilled if they got all the funds for this project and we could have this great amenity for our community, and then we could still have some other money to do other great projects with. So I'm going to let Meg go, and then I am going to start getting to your questions. I just want to make sure that all of everyone working on these projects has an opportunity to answer some questions first in case they answer the question that you're about to ask. So Meg, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I'll try and be super quick. So another thing to keep in mind when I was reading through some of the questions was talking about the maintenance of the property. And right now we have an interim permit process and already a lot of the permits have been filled out, which is generating some funds to help with the care and maintenance of the property. So I wanted to make sure that that was brought to light, that those things are being filled out. And if anyone has any questions about distinct numbers of folks that have been up at Marshall, there's a trail counter, but also, I can speak to the vast majority of folks that I've brought up there that that aren't on a bicycle, which is since August, close to 750 participants up there that were historically not ever been to the property and not on bikes and adventure recreation.
Great, thanks, Meg. I'm going to go start with questions because people are lining up. Thank you for your patience, fellow council people. Jennifer, go ahead.
Thank you. I also just wanted to say thank you to Morgan for talking to me for quite a while yesterday. I had quite a number of questions. When I dug into some of the comments that were in some of the documents, I think there were like 1,300 comments, and 960 of those respondents came from just 3 zip codes in Missoula, and those zip codes may sort of like think of them as our more affluent neighborhoods. And so I had big concerns about making sure that engagement moving forward was equitable across the entire city of Missoula, if this is something that the city is going to invest in. And I also had questions of equity. A lot of those comments, while there is, I think, a lot of support for this project, a lot of people were interested in how they were going to pay to use Marshall. Would it be a sliding scale? What were transportation issues going to look like? And so I just want to bring all of that into the forefront as and so I don't really have a question. These are more just comments. But as we move forward, Morgan, you mentioned, sort of more updates. I think that would be amazing. I think this is complex. I think that it would be great to know sort of what's going on sort of as we're moving along. It is like a sort of, I guess, a deep process moving forward. And also the last question that I had from Morgan yesterday that I wanted to share with all of you was the fundraising plan. I've spent plenty of years working in fundraising and nonprofits. And I am curious about that process. And so I also wanted to know who had picked SE Group, and like, was that was it the city? Was it the Friends group? Just trying to sort of iron out some of those details so that we can kind of head off questions as we come along. And then just want to make, just a plug for sort of equity and engagement across Missoula as we continue to move forward with this process. Thank you.
I'll answer that question and then also comment that this master planning process is the mechanism that we use to broadly expand our reach and develop that plan for the site and how we're going to have people come and engage on the site. SE Group, it was a competitive RFQ, and we narrowed it down to 3 firms, interviewed those, did a second round of interviews. The selection committee was made up of myself, Nathan McLeod, and Neil Miner at Parks and Rec, Chet Krauser, who is the director of the County Parks, Lands, and Open Trails, and Rick Wishcamper representing Izzy Dog LLC, and Ben Haran, Associate Director of Five Valleys Land Trust.
Thanks. And Jennifer, I appreciate you bringing up that question. And I think it's an important one that we have the whole community involved. My guess is, and maybe we could get some information on this sent out to us, that if we look at the zip codes beyond, I know the process, as Morgan outlined, will be kind of a broader process and people that choose kind of self-select to make comments, right? But the other piece, I think, if we look at the zip code of the users through parks and the Parks Department, that are those 700 and something people and all the kids that are going out there mountain biking and hiking and whatever else they're all doing, I'm guessing that that's going to be kind of a broader zip code representation, but I don't know. So I don't know if there's any way to get us that. If so, we don't need to talk about it right now because that process is going to keep going. But I think that's a consideration for kind of the user of the property, not just the people that know how to get to engage Missoula and comment. So I think it's both. Sandra, go ahead.
Thanks. I have two questions and then I'll make a comment. Meg actually kind of did answer my first question. I was concerned about the maintenance for this, but then that did bring up an extra question. So if people do not buy permits, then the site will not be will not be maintained. Is that how that works?
No, these permits are for private businesses that are running camps and daycares and events, and then folks that are wanting to do large regional events like competitive races and whatnot. And so they actually pay fees to use the site, and we are using those fees we're actually in the process right now of developing an agreement with Mountain Bike Missoula, who built the majority of the trails on these properties, to actually take over management of all the trails. And so permits will pay for that and then probably generate some additional money as well to fill dispensers and that kind of stuff.
Okay, and then my second question is, so this is not in city, this is not within city limits, this is in county land. How come the county isn't purchasing this? And do we even have a legal, I'm assuming that we can legally purchase it.
Yeah,
because,
it's actually quite common for our open space acquisitions to fall outside city limits. For instance, Mount Sentinel was outside the city limits for 10 years until it was annexed, 10 years of city ownership. We just purchased Bluebird, probably all of Mount Dean Stone, which we just purchased, is still in the county as well. And so that's not uncommon for us to do acquisitions within the open space donut around the city limits. County, though, is a big partner. And I think going back to the zip codes, I was really impressed by the number of folks from East Missoula, West Riverside, Bonner Milltown, Frenchtown that actually also filled out the survey. Engaging those communities is going to be incredibly important. And I've already been going to neighborhood meetings out there with our county representatives. And so this is definitely a city county project moving forward. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and
I
would just add to that the donut has historically, what around the city has historically kind of had investment from both city and county for open space projects. And did you have another question, Sandra?
I had a comment, but it sounds like Grant wanted to comment on my question.
Okay, go ahead, Grant, and then make your comment after Sandra.
Yeah, sorry to jump in just really quickly. I just wanted to add, and I don't know if this got brought up previously, but that Marshall falls squarely in our cornerstones, which is defined in our Missoula Urban Area Open Space Plan that was adopted in 2019 as areas of special natural resources and high open space value. So that means that we prioritize those areas under our open space plan for city or partnerships for acquisition. So I just wanted to make sure that we threw that out there.
Yeah, thanks. Sandra, would you like to make your comment and then we'll move on?
Yeah. So I read through oh my gosh, like 50 pages of comments. While there was a lot of contention about dogs and horses and e-bikes and golfing, I also looked through the PROST, the Parks, Recreation, Trails, and Open Space Needs Assessment Survey. I read through all of that as well. And I was kind of disappointed in the first survey that was actually on the Marshall Mountain Engage Missoula site. There was never a question that says, should we acquire Marshall Mountain? And I think that that would have opened up a lot of like yes or no questions, like yes, we should, or no, we shouldn't. It was a kind of bias, like when we acquire it, what would you like to see? I don't know. I didn't like the way that the survey was presented. And then in the Pro survey in 2018, only 28% of respondents said that they supported purchasing more land, while 37% supported improving, renewing, or restoring features that already exist. So it sounds like something that the city wants, and they're going to make it happen no matter what. And making this this $130,000 purchase for the master plan is basically agreeing to purchasing this project or purchasing Marshall Mountain. And I can't agree with that. And I'm not going to be in support of it today. I really do appreciate all the work that you guys have done in this. The people who do want to purchase Marshall Mountain, they seem very, very involved. And it sounds like we're going to have a lot of volunteer projects with it. And I feel like it's going to be purchased anyways. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. I'm not going to be in support of it, but thank you all for the information today.
Thanks. And I want to be clear with all the city councilors. We are not voting today to any purchase of Marshall Mountain. We are only voting on whether we are going to approve this planning process. So as I think staff has articulated, we do not know what the funding of this looks like. We have not worked any of that out. We do not know if the fundraising is going to be enough, what the county is going to put in. This is a process. So I understand your concerns, Sandra, but I just want to be really clear that we are not voting on that purchase today. I also would like to say that while I have not gone back and reviewed the Pro survey from 18, I did look at it very closely at that time. We also did a separate statistically valid poll before we ran the bond, because you don't want to fund and run a bond that is not going to pass. But we did see the numbers as the bond passed, which was for the acquisition of new open space. And that was at 61%, I believe. I'm going to move on, and Stacy, go ahead.
Thanks so much, Madam Chair. I appreciate some of the comments my fellow council members have made, especially around the fundraising component. I guess my question is to Morgan. There are multiple moving components, and I appreciate you sort of like, acknowledging that this does seem like a really large scoping project for something that we don't own yet and have not made the decision to own. But and that this money is coming out of the stewardship and conservation levy that was passed by the city of Missoula voters a few years ago. And this comes out of emergency reserves. I don't know if I necessarily agree that this constitutes an emergency. So I'm really concerned about how that money gets back. In your presentation that you made last week, that you said that the money was getting paid back by the fundraising efforts. So my curiosity, is it the first $130,000 that's raised by this project gets put back, or is it the last $130,000? I've spent quite a bit of time fundraising as well. And I understand that we need to have a vision of what we want to do. I really, I think that there's two parts to this. There's the actual acquisition, but then there's the ongoing maintenance of it. And I do think that I would be curious about a presentation about how we're using that stewardship levy currently to do maintenance of areas we currently own, and what outstanding maintenance projects that we have, so that we're making sure that we're balancing that. I feel like that was a piece that I would have liked to see a part of this presentation, because those resources are finite. So want to make sure that there's a plan to get that money back in to the stewardship levy as soon as possible. So if you could answer that, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And I in the presentation that we gave last week, I did have the actual resolution that created that fund. I hesitate to actually call it emergency. Emergency restoration was one of the things that came up. So if Sentinel burns, we don't have to have a bake sale, which we have done in the past to generate seed to reseed. But it's also to be used, if we end up in periods of time where we do not have bond money available and we do have a key acquisition that comes up. And so your point is well taken. That is a reserve fund that we want to build. In in the last 4 fiscal years, we've been putting money into that fund and have gotten it up to $500,000. It will be $500,000 at the end of this fiscal year. We have basically 10% of the mill levy goes into that fund every fiscal year. So that's right around $50,000. Any money, if we have left over from salary savings or contracts that don't get totally implemented, extra conservation and stewardship mill levy money also goes into that fund. And so certainly through the pandemic, we've been able to put some more money in there. In general, we're averaging anywhere from, I'd say, just over $100,000 annually a year that we were putting into that reserve fund to build it. As far as reimbursement goes, the group is actively, they are committed to reimbursing the costs of this contract as part of the acquisition and planning costs. I think there's a lot of what ifs there. For instance, what if we do this and decide that we are not going to purchase the mountain and the Friends are sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars of funding? I would imagine that they would at least reimburse us for our $130,000 investment. And so that's I guess a little harder one to address, except for the fact that they have committed to reimbursing these funds into this reserve account. That reserve account does carry over and build each year, and so it is something that does not go away and is reimbursable. Did I hit all your questions? I'm sorry, Stacy. I had some microphone.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I guess it was not as succinct of a question as it could have been because it was comment / question. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate that they're committed to that. It would make me feel a little bit more comfortable given that this is a significant portion of that. And, I was happy to have voted for that stewardship levy because I do think that we need to be good stewards of the property and the parks and what we currently have. And so I just want to make sure that this doesn't hamper that, because that I think was really the intent for those of us who were supportive of that.
Yeah, and so the mill levy, and we are due. We've got a presentation ready to go to come in and give to this group on our conservation lands program and the conservation and stewardship mill levy. The 10% that goes into that reserve fund, the other 90% is spent annually on maintaining these properties. So we've got $450,000 a year there's going back into managing our lands that we currently own. This reserve fund is its own special fund that is set up for these situations. So use of this $130 will not affect land management next year or the year after. It will affect the balance of the reserve fund that we use for emergency restorations, acquisitions, major equipment purchases that may be coming. We do not have on the horizon any major equipment purchases coming or any major acquisitions that would be using these reserve funds at this point.
Thanks, Morgan. We're over on time again, which I blame partly on myself here, but Mirta, go ahead.
Thank you. I had sent Morgan more than 10 questions and I appreciate all the answers. I think you have touched on a lot of the questions that I had. I'm still a little bit unclear about the current maintenance that we're doing on this property that's not currently owned by the city is coming out of our conservation and sustainability mill levy. Is that right?
We are absorbing the cost of maintenance, and that's largely the cost of a trailhead and doing some mowing of turf up there. And then now we are collecting permit fees, and we're just about to approve those permits. We're looking at it, I would imagine around $10K a year that's coming in that will go directly back to funding maintenance. And I would be very happy to come back and talk about what we're doing at Marshall, maintenance of it, and that kind of stuff.
Thanks. And Amber, just a quick comment.
Yes.
I still have a lot of questions about the purchase, and I realize that in my analogy of how things work in the city to how I do things around my house. I think of this as I want to purchase a house and I'm doing my inspection on it and seeing if I can afford it or not. And I think that the reason why so many of us had questions is because it was a little bit, the presentation was based on the fact that we are buying Marshall Mountain. And I would like the public to know that I'm going to continue to do my due diligence on this to figure out exactly what we're getting ourselves into by purchasing this. I think it's important to balance our desire for more and unique open space with our ability to maintain it into the future. That's the reason why we have the open space bond with the conservation and sustainability levy attached to it, because this is an ongoing issue that we bite sometimes more than we can chew. And I think it's important for us to get all those answers before we buy more property. And just a couple of very specific things that are in my mind is, while we have a 2018 survey, that's pre-pandemic. And for a lot of people, priorities have changed. And I think that maybe it'll show that there's even more support because many of us turn to our outdoors as a way to cope with the pandemic. But pocket-wise, in terms of our budgeting, that might be different. And I think we need accurate, answers to that, what the support is out there. And then I guess my other request is I would like to know more about who the Friends of Marshall Mountain or the people doing the fundraising are, because everything that I have seen seems very mountain bike heavy. And I feel like we are in a solid path to more equitable and broad reach to our community and providing access to our facilities. And so who is fundraising for what purpose? I think it's really important, at least for me to know. So I would really like to learn more about who they are and what the goals and how they are promoting the purchase of the mountain into the fundraising world. But I appreciate everything I do, and I realize that we need a plan to get all these answers and move forward. So I will support getting us to that first step, which is the planning process. And thanks for everything.
Thanks, Marta. Jordan, can I steal a few minutes from your committee?
Yeah, that's fine, Amber.
Okay, I think I've already done that without asking, but I officially want to ask. Okay, thank you. We do need to keep things moving along though, because I'm already digging into Jordan's time, as well as your lunch time is pretty much gone. Heidi, go ahead.
I just had a quick comment. I think it's 2 comments. I think we deferred the annexation of East Missoula for another 10 years, but we have a finite knowledge that will be part of the city of Missoula in the near future. And I think that's something to remember because of where this is located. And then my second comment is just that I'm personally not surprised by, I guess, the user groups that are currently reflected, because these are the people that have historically had access to the site and are familiar with it. I've never been there and broke my ankle before the festival that was out there and didn't get to go. And I'm still sad about it. But I think as more people get to experience it, those comments will probably broaden, and who's represented is going to be more inclusive, just by the nature of it now being, more accessible to more groups of people by the nature of the current arrangement. So
that's a great point, Heidi. I appreciate that. I think that is true. Mike, go ahead.
Thank you. And I would agree with Ms. West's comment. I think that we don't necessarily know what the future use will be because it's going to be open to more people. I do want to kind of put out there on the record that my support of the acquisition will be very much tied to the fundraising efforts, because I definitely think this is a great opportunity, and I support spending this money to do the master plan because that's how you fundraise. This whole opportunity came about because there was outrage in the public about a private sale. And I think that while it's a great opportunity, it wasn't necessarily one of our priority lists. And I don't know that I'd compare it to a house purchase. I'd compare it to a vacation home purchase, where it's a great opportunity that could be a lot of fun for a lot of people, but it isn't necessarily priority number one. And I don't think that it has the same impact of a park in the middle of town to equitable opportunities for people. But I also do want to say that one of the things in the acquisition process down the road that I'm going to want to know more about is expected staffing and maintenance costs. And I know that the master plan is a big part of that, because we really won't know what our maintenance and staffing issues are until we have a master plan in place. But we just sat through a process about a month ago with park user fees, where we were told by a few very passionate people that we're underfunding parks, and we're placing expectations on things. So every time we do something new and it doesn't 100% generate revenue, we need to factor in that budget's going to grow bigger, and are we going to be able to support it or not? So those are things that I definitely think in the process of acquisition, I'm going to want to know more about. But I definitely support doing the master plan and seeing where this goes. And I think that community group is going to raise the money. I don't have any doubt that that'll happen. So thanks.
Thanks for those comments, Mike. I think those are important things to remember. Jennifer, go ahead, and then I'm looking for a motion on this.
I can make the motion after just this brief comment. I also just one more call out for, I would love more details on the fundraising as well, because as we all know, all of us who have worked in fundraising, there's also donor intent to contend with. And so if people are giving large sums of money, sometimes they have expectations of what that money might get for them or for the particular recreation group that they might represent. And so I think as we move forward, if we do, go down the road of acquisition, we need to be really clear about sort of the Venn diagram of where the city is, where the Friends of Marshall Mountain is, where the fundraising is. I mean, I think I would just hope that we can do that moving forward. Having said all of that, I would move that we approve I think it's $130,000 for the master plan for Marshall Mountain. Is that all I need to say? That's my first motion, Amber.
Oh, good job. First of all, I think that your point's really well taken, having been a fundraiser myself. I appreciate the motion. You're just moving the motion forward. That's in the agenda. So I appreciate that. Gwen, did you have one more really quick?
Really quickly. Yeah, I actually made the motion last week. I am sorry, Jennifer. I believe it's on the floor already. Karina was raising her hand because of that, I think. But I do think you need to call for public comment.
I will do that. Thank you. Darn it, Jennifer. I'm sorry, but thank you, Gwen, and thank you for hopping in there. Heidi, did you have a quick comment?
Yeah, I was just going to mention, having just worked on a city related fundraising effort, that there is a lot of rules in the future that will also really define how the fundraising effort works. And we don't have to figure that all out now.
That's great, because we don't have time to figure it out now. And I am going to call for public comment, but I'm pretty sure the phone number that's in the one person is Grant. So if it is not you, Grant, if you have public comment, please raise your hand on the phone. I think it's *9 or *6 to raise your hand. So no public comment, and we need to go ahead and take a vote, roll call vote on this, if you would, Karina.
Okay. Anderson.
Yes.
Anderson votes yes. Becerra.
Yes.
Becerra votes yes. Carlino.
Yes.
Carlino votes yes. Contos.
Yes.
Contos votes yes. Hess.
Yes.
Hess votes yes. Jones.
Yes.
Jones votes yes. Jordan.
Yes.
Jordan votes yes. Mike Nugent.
Yes.
Mike Nugent votes yes. Savage.
Yes.
Savage votes yes. Cheryl.
Yes.
Cheryl votes yes. Vaseka.
No.
Vaseka votes no. West.
Yes.
West votes yes. That is 11 yeses and 1 no.
Sandy, would you like that to be on committee reports, or could we just put
On
it on
consent
there?
agenda.
Okay, I think it's fine to go ahead and put that on consent agenda. There's going to be a lot more conversation around Marshall Mountain. And I would certainly like to, just as we have staff here, would like to say, I would like to see, you know, any wildlife implications of, you know, keeping this as a open space, as well as water quality and things like that. So we haven't gotten to talk about those yet, and we certainly don't have time to do it now. I appreciate everyone's comments and thoughtfulness on this, and really appreciate all the work staff is doing. And, you know, these are the processes we need to go through when we're doing things, you know, in different orders and order than normal. So thanks everyone. And I am going to adjourn the Parks and Conservation Committee.